welcome to the special conversation here on NDTV. We are starting a new series where we will be talking about the expectations of top policy makers, economists, industrialists, startup owners and citizens from the budget of Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman as she presents the first budget of NDA, the first full budget of NDA on 1st of February. Joining me now is Surjit Bhalla, former Executive Director of IMF. Mr. Bhalla, really appreciate your time. Over the last few weeks, sir, extensive consultations have happened with Prime Minister, Finance Minister in attendance. Of course, these were closed-door consultations. Tell me about this entire policy-making process for budgets, and is that the practice world over?
Well, this is, you mentioned closed door, has been closed door. It was closed door in 1800 and it's closed door in 2024. We need to, there's a good talk, credible talk of India being Viksit Bharat in 2047. What I would ask is why and how are closed-door consultations for the budget, for major economic policies, the way to go for those aspiring to be a developed country. There is no developed country. Matter of fact, very few countries follow this ancient policy-making system that we have in India today. So my first request is that we should do away with this kind of budget making. It only helps the policy makers, that is the bureaucrats making the policy, and helps TV audiences to which you cater.
So how is it really done in developed economies? I mean, do these consultations happen in open rooms with full camera view, absolutely. In full public view?
No, I mean, that's why they don't have this kind of tamasha.
Okay.
You show me one country that has the tamasha. The budget gets made, it gets presented in parliament, end of story. There's no tamasha, there's no TV. That is, I have yet to see a budget presentation on TV in any other country, but only in India. So that's the first thing we need to do. It really is, let me ask a larger question to that. Why should budget making, especially on taxes, on spending, on freebies, be done in secret? Why should policy making be secret? So that's the first request I would like to make. And I've been making this over the years. I think the first time I made this request was about 25 years ago. Obviously, nobody's listening. But I do think the time has come now for decision making. Think back to the farm laws. Think back to any policy. Okay? What was the complaint? The complaint was that there wasn't adequate discussion before the policy was presented. I think there was. But the point was the discussion was all in private, closed door. So therefore, first principles first, please have open discussion of policies, then you present it in parliament.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the ideal tax structure for India? And do you think the current tax rates are conducive to promoting economic growth?
I think, look, everybody has been talking about a growth slowdown. And it is a sharp slowdown. And it is one that policymakers and economists don't have much of an explanation for. But it is serious. To have a decline of 2 percentage points to 3 percentage points in 2 years from your growth rate of about 8% to 5.3% is something to really worry about. So what are the reasons that this has happened? I think, look, first, the monetary policy has been very tight and real interest rates have been very high. Second, Our fiscal policy has been very tight. Okay, this preoccupation with the fiscal deficit, I mean, let's think. If you reduce the fiscal deficit as the government is planning to do, what have you achieved? Or what will you do? Once the fiscal deficit goes down, will it bring inflation down? Oh, so you're telling me the food prices will be brought down if you bring fiscal deficit down. And food prices are the major contributor to inflation in India. So it doesn't help. Oh, are you telling me that our growth rate, the growth slowdown that we've got, will be accelerated if we brought the fiscal deficit down? Yes. More growth slowdown. So what is the age-old policy measure, Keynesian models, which we've been following for 80 years? When you want to expand the economy, you expand the fiscal deficit. You don't contract it further. So it doesn't achieve higher growth. It doesn't achieve lower inflation. So what is this preoccupation with the fiscal deficit? We need to bring it down. It's not an achievement. It's a negative mark on economic policy making.
Sir, do you think it is linked to urban consumption going down? Is that the reason? Or there is another view, Mr. Bhalla, that the global economic trends are also showing slowdown in major economies. Is that also impacting India's economic growth and fiscal policy?
No. First, that is a wrong interpretation. The IMF has just announced global growth will be higher this year than last year, and last year was higher than the year preceding. So it is not the case that there is a global slowdown. It is a case that global growth is not as high as it used to be in 2011, 2012, but it is expanding from, if you will, a low base. Second, you mention about urban consumption, what will get it to go up? And I mentioned about very high tax rates in India. India has one of the highest tax to GDP ratios in the world. And for personal consumption, our tax to GDP ratio, personal consumption, personal income taxes to GDP is about 3.9%. Very few countries in the world have this high level of personal income taxation. And our aggregate tax to GDP ratio is 19%. Korea has 19, US has 19. So they are about 15 times richer than us. So I think we need to rethink really for our tax policies and our expenditure policies. On the expenditure policies, we've got a lot, the tax comes in, we're collecting a lot of taxes. So what is the government, state governments and the central government? We keep talking about freebies, but we're licensing more freebie spending by increasing the taxation on the people.
Do you
that's what,
Go ahead.
Yeah, so that is what needs to be corrected. One, as I said, if we had an open consultation process, this thing would come out in the open. Lots of people, I think, would support the view that we are taxing ourselves too much. There is no evidence that our tax to GDP ratio is correct or is low. It's very high. Second, this is what ails the Indian economy. So what else would it? This is Econ 101. Nothing, no rocket science. Forget no plain science. I mean, this is basic economics.
Okay. The new US administration of Donald Trump, this is Donald Trump 2.0 in Washington, D.C. Do you think any changes or decisions that will be made immediately by the new president will have a direct impact on India? And what are you watching out for? And what kind of impact are you sensing on the Indian economy?
Okay. So now you bring in Trump. In 2017, he cut tax rates in the US. And that is one of the reasons why the US continues to grow at a solid pace compared to all the comparator countries for the US like Europe, Japan, etc. In 2019, we cut the corporate tax rate, and after that, the corporate taxes as a share of GDP has zoomed. Now, that is a lesson we need to get. So I think Trump is going to talk about cutting tax rates in the US. He already is. But from our side, we should cut tax rates because it is in our interest to do so, not because Trump says. So I think Trump is not important for what he says he will do for his country, for us. For us, what is important is what is in the best interest of India. And Trump advocating lower taxes, we will then see the light and say, yes, lower tax rates help, and we will then be motivated more to cut tax rates.
My last question to you. What are the three things that you will tell the finance minister to do in this budget? Your wish list.
My wish list starts with tax reform, direct tax reform, not corporate taxes, direct tax reform, which is personal income taxes. So that has to be done. Second, interest rates are too high, and therefore the interest rates need to be cut. Third, since you asked for three, I will give you three, is we need to be much more open economy than we are today, which means tariff rates need to be cut. FDI needs to be encouraged, not shunned out as we've been doing. So cut taxes, cut interest rates, open up the economy. What else is left?
All right, Surjit Bhalla, thank you so much for your time here on NDTV, and we hope to connect with you on 1st of February after the budget is presented as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.